I am the author of www.getyourchildintogat.com. Welcome back to Test Prep 202, the verbal section. In the first part, I motivated what we're going to do in the next couple parts. Then we looked at some examples and provided some interesting gaps to address. And then that brings us down to a short-term strategy. So let's begin there. Okay, so suppose you have adequate vocabulary, but your child is just not good at doing verbal type questions. So my recommendation is you can start with an analogy book like Think Analogies. So here's Amazon.com. There's plenty of analogies books out there. You've got some different ones to choose from. I can tell you from my experience, I'm not sure how much my child got out of this, but as I'm going to show you in a minute, it was great as a parent. Also, as I've mentioned for the last 5 years, I really like Building Thinking Skills. Their second half of the book is verbal, and it's absolute gold. So back to Think Analogies, which is additional practice, specifically in more of a test format. These books organize the different types of attributes that a word can have as opposed to a shape, and give you some examples of what they're going to do with the question types. That was it for me. That was my takeaway. I didn't find that the vocabulary, at least in our case, was up to par with my children's vocabulary, but that was okay. And it doesn't hurt to go through some of those questions. But this was my takeaway, and I used it in my vocabulary exercises, which I'm going to demonstrate right now. So, suppose your child has vocabulary workshop, and you get the word blade. And I know you can't see that, so I'm about to bring up a spreadsheet. So as soon as I saw that, we had knife on there, handle, scalpel, which my child could never read, let alone give me an adequate definition for, operation, doctor, lancet, which is a two-bladed scalpel, surgery, and that would be for girls. Bayonet if you've got a boy. So I'm going to show you what we do with these so you can see it. Okay, so this top row is for me. And on my word board, I actually posted this so that when I drill my kid, I'm looking at this and I know what questions I can ask. And I took the word scalpel and I just went through some basic synonyms. These are not necessarily age appropriate, but depends on the kid. Opposites I almost never do. There's so much more cognitive load in synonyms, and opposites tend to come easy. I like to look at the history and the etymology of the word, and if there's any Latin roots, which in this case there weren't, but whatever, because I get excited about these, and if I'm excited talking about a word, it's going to rub off. And then, of course, we've got the part of operating room tools. But, you know, who else has a tool set? Construction worker does, for example. A scalpel has two parts, blade and a handle. Instead of characteristics, I like to toss out the word attributes because I think that holds a little bit more than characteristics, but characteristics is certainly fine. Then we move on to kind of sequence, which has a little bit to do with the attributes. In this case, it might be size and sharpness if we want to line them up. Knife, scalpel, axe. We can organize it by size. We can organize it alphabetically. There's actually a grading scale because when we do this, we're going to go out and look at Wiki, find a little bit about the history. I stumbled across this thing because I was looking for a word of whatever that thing surgeons lay out before they go into the operating room, which I don't know. And I'm basically getting excited about this. Used by, product of, association. We don't put all these on the word board. I put a few, but let me tell you this. If my child had blade, for example, out of a vocabulary book, and it's on the word board, then once a week they're going to come up and look at their words and read and tell me what a blade is. But I'm going to grill them on anything I can think of. What else goes with the blade? Who's it used by? Is it used by knight? That's fine, whatever they come up with. I usually don't ask about history and etymology, but if this had a decent Latin root like un, I certainly would. What are the parts? Is it a part of something else, which frankly part of has parts? So I've used the term board of directors in the past when I'm talking about word board. So it's not just, can you tell me the definition of blade so I can pull the word off the word board? I'm the board of directors, and you, my little friend, are the CEO of Learning Inc., and I'm going to grill you as much as I can. Okay, so that's a little bit over the top, but it's not so much the practice with an analogies book that I use. It's the practice with this whole analogies framework or verbal classification using a sentence framework that is on the cognitive skills test that I will just grill into my students or my children over. What do we have left? We have a month. We have 2 months. So it's not just, I want you to learn more than you ever thought you can because I'm trying to pack your brain. It's in addition to that, I want you to think as much as you can. And since in all cases, especially up to about grades 2 or 3, we have a word board out there for something. I don't know if it's vocabulary at this point or science or what. That word board tends to fill up with essentially fodder for analogies during test season. Whew. And in my next section, we're going to cover a much longer approach, which sort of puts this on steroids. Thank you. We'll see you in that video.